SIPP, or a self-invested personal pension, gives you real control and flexibility over your pension and also the investments that you're going to make into it. Hello, my name's Rachel and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going into the details of what a self-invested personal pension is, and also later in the video, I'm going to be sharing with you my SIPP portfolio. So this is all of the investments that I'm currently holding in my self-invested personal pension. Now this SIPP has done well for me. It has achieved 5-year annualized returns of 16.5%. So that simply means that on average over the last 5 years, every year it's achieved 16.5% on average. You can decide how much you want to pay into your self-invested personal pension. You can decide on the frequency that you want to pay in. You can also take old workplace pensions and transfer them into your self-invested personal pension. Any savings or investments that you have in your self-invested personal pension can grow tax-free and can be topped up from UK government tax relief. So it only costs 80p of your own money to save £1 as a result of the SIPP tax relief. And obviously, if you're a higher earner, you could get even more tax relief than that, but I'm not going to go into the details of that in this video. You can access the retirement savings within your SIPP when you reach the age of 55, or from 2028, this will be from the age of 57. When you are investing, obviously your capital is at risk, and this is the case with any pensions as well. So please do be aware of that. But in terms of opening up a self-invested personal pension, as I said, you can take old workplace pensions and take the money that is invested in those and move that across to a self-invested personal pension, or you can simply start up a SIPP if, say, for example, you are self-employed and you can pay in monthly, you can pay in a lump sum. It's very, very flexible in terms of the payments that you can make into it. Now, I personally really like to have my pension all in one place, so in my self-invested personal pension, simply because it gives me a really good eye for where my pension might be when retirement age comes. I also personally find investing interesting. I enjoy following the market, I enjoy doing my research, and I enjoy investing in my own self-invested personal pension. So you do have to be comfortable with investing if you open up a self-invested personal pension, because you are making your own investment decisions. So I've held my SIPP for a number of years, and a couple of years ago I transferred it to AJ Bell, so that is who I am personally using for my self-invested personal pension. I have a video which I will link here where I compare different providers of self-invested personal pensions in case you want to check that out. I'm not sponsored by anyone and I have no need to recommend a specific platform. I just am comparing them based on many factors, for example, their fees and customer service. So I thought now was a really good time to share my self-invested personal pension portfolio with you, simply because I am going to be rebalancing it in the next few weeks and months. So when you have your self-invested personal pension, it obviously different investments will obviously grow at different rates, and some of the investments that I hold have done exceptionally well, which means that I'm holding a greater proportion of those investments than I would personally like. So I will be rebalancing this portfolio. So this is certainly not a go ahead and invest in all of these investments in this proportion, simply because this is not how I want my self-invested personal pensions to look. As I said, the returns have been fantastic at 16.5% 5-year annualized returns, and actually the 1-year returns are almost 20% at 19.78%. So I've been very happy with the performance of this portfolio. However, at the moment I do not feel that it is a well balanced and diverse portfolio. There is also a high level of exposure to tech stocks within this portfolio, which is fine, and if it's something you're comfortable with, that is great, but I would just like to adjust this. So I think what I'll do is that in a month's time I will share another self-invested personal pension video which has my portfolio, which I'm very, very comfortable with, and I'm happy with those investments. So if you fancy subscribing to this channel, then you can look out for that video in around a month's time. Also, I wanted to point out that I'm probably looking to sell some of the actively managed funds within this self-invested personal pension portfolio. As I said, I've held this SIPP for many, many years, and when I started investing, I obviously invested in a range of ETFs and also actively managed funds, as well as individual stocks and shares, but I've come to the conclusion that I would much rather invest in ETFs over actively managed funds. Obviously that isn't always the case and there may be some anomalies, but for my self-invested personal pension I'm going to stick predominantly to investing in ETFs. So this portfolio is made up predominantly of stocks rather than cash and bonds, so it's currently sitting at 94% stocks. When I am referring to stocks in this video, I am not referring to individual stocks and shares. I'm talking about the exchange traded funds, the funds and the trusts that I am invested in. So you'll see that I'm holding hardly any bonds and a small amount of cash. This is simply because I am a long way away from wanting to retire, and I would prefer for my portfolio at the moment to be much more aggressive. The closer you get to retirement age, potentially the more you might want to have in cash and bonds. I'll just pop an illustration on the screen from Vanguard just to inform you of what they say in terms of the percentage that you should be invested into different bonds and stocks when you get closer to retirement. But obviously the decision making is all up to you when you are investing in a self-invested personal pension. This is a DIY investment platform, so I personally have decided to have a very, very low allocation of bonds and cash and have predominantly stocks in my portfolio. Okay, so very quickly, let's look at the trailing returns for this portfolio. 3 months is 3.65%. 6 months is 11.67%, 1 year 19.78%, 3 year annualized 5.24%, and 5 year annualized, as I said, is 16.50%. The year to date return for this portfolio has been 11.67%. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is share with you the 7 different investments that I hold in this self-invested personal pension, starting with the largest holding and then moving all the way down to the lowest amount that I'm holding in the self-invested personal pension. And then what I'm going to do is share with you in terms of the individual stocks that fall into these different funds, trusts and ETFs. I'll be sharing with you the percentage holdings within my portfolio of those as well. But as I said, I am not invested in any different stocks and shares. I'm simply invested in different ETFs, funds and trusts, but obviously they contain individual stocks and shares. Okay, so my biggest holding, which makes up 23.82% of my portfolio, is the iShares MSCI USA SRI ETF. This is an accumulating ETF, which simply means that any dividends are not paid out to me, they are simply reinvested into this ETF. Second biggest holding is the iShares S&P 500 Information Technology Sector ETF. I've talked about this ETF very recently. It has done exceptionally well. I will link the video in case you want to check it out in a little bit more detail. So the 1 year returns for that ETF have been 43.04, so phenomenal returns. However, it has led to my portfolio being somewhat unbalanced and has increased the quantity of tech that I have in this portfolio, so I am looking to rebalance. So the next investment is Vanguard's FTSE Developed World excluding UK. 1 year returns are 20.98% and 5 year annualized are 12.15. The next 3 investments are actually actively managed investments. Now, when I started investing, I did invest in some actively managed funds, as you can see from this video, and some actively managed trusts. Now, as I've learned more about investing over time, I feel more comfortable investing in exchange traded funds or in index funds, which are passively managed, so they're not managed by people and fund managers, and historically they do tend to do better over time rather than these actively managed funds. Also, actively managed funds tend to have higher fees. So yeah, I'm probably going to be removing these next 3 investments, but I thought it was important to share them with you anyway, because I am going through my full portfolio with you. So the first one is the Baillie Gifford Positive Change Fund. It has 5 year annualized returns of 14.03%. The next one after that is a Scottish Mortgage Investment Trust, which is a huge trust. It has 5 year annualized returns of 11.26%, and its 1 year returns have been pretty phenomenal at 33.37%. The 3 year annualized returns were actually not very good at minus 12.32%. And then the third and final actively managed trust that I will be getting rid of probably is the Pacific Horizon Investment Trust. 1 year returns for this is 17.40. 3 year annualized returns are minus 9.14 and 5 year annualized returns are 14.23%. So yes, as I said, I will probably be getting rid of these 3 actively managed funds and trusts, I think, but I am going to do a little bit more research and spend much more time looking into this. So please do watch out for my video in around a month's time when I have rebalanced this self-invested personal pension portfolio, and I feel much more comfortable with what I am holding in it. Okay, so the last investment that I hold in this self-invested personal pension is quite a niche ETF. It's the LNG Battery Value Chain ETF. The 5-year annualized returns for this ETF are 15.92%. Now, the reason I'm thinking about potentially getting rid of this ETF and also replacing it with something more general, like a FTSE All-World ETF, is simply because I believe that it is too niche. And with my self-invested personal pension, I don't want to be keeping an eye on these investments in too much detail. And although overall I have been happy with the performance of this Battery Value Chain ETF, I think that for my self-invested personal pension, I would rather have a more diverse ETF and have the money invested there rather than have it in something so specific. Although you could say that this could form a small part of my portfolio and perhaps a satellite investment, but for me personally, I'm thinking about just really simplifying this self-invested personal pension and having maybe 3 or 4 different ETFs in it, because obviously there's also going to be some crossover with these different ETFs that I'm holding, and I want to try and avoid that as well. Not with the LNG Battery Value Chain ETF, because it's so niche that there isn't any crossover there with the other ETFs that I'm investing in, but I think it's almost too niche for my self-invested personal pension. Okay, very quickly, let's go through my top 10 underlying holdings. So as I said, I do not hold any individual stocks and shares within my self-invested personal pension. I did actually used to, and they performed well. But as I said, I want to kind of leave this self-invested personal pension to grow, and I don't want to be doing lots of rebalancing. I don't want to be keeping a close eye on the stock market and individual stocks and shares. So that is why I don't hold individual stocks and shares within the self-invested personal pension. However, they are obviously forming underlying assets within all of these different ETFs, funds and trusts. So I wanted to give you a good picture of this portfolio. So I'm giving you the underlying holdings as well. So my top holding is Microsoft, which makes up 7.86% of this portfolio. The second holding is Nvidia, which has obviously done phenomenally well in the last year. It's gone up over 200%, and it forms a very large part of the IITU ETF that I'm invested in. So the S&P 500 Information Technology Sector ETF, it has a high percentage of Nvidia in it, which is why it's coming up so high in my portfolio. 5.05% of this portfolio is Apple, 2.14% is Tesla, 1.78% is ASML Holdings, 1.67% is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, 1.53% is Mercado Libre, 1.47% is Moderna, 1.31% is Broadcom, and 0.94% is Adobe. So you'll see there that a lot of those top 10 holdings are tech stocks. There's also a healthcare stock in there as well, but I think I need to move away from being so hugely invested in tech within the self-invested personal pension. I'm still going to hold on to the iShares S&P 500 Information Technology ETF because I'm incredibly happy with the performance of it. Please do pop any questions that you have in the comments down below. As I said, I will be rebalancing this portfolio, so if you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome, and then you can see that video in around about a month's time. And I've actually taken the time to sit down and do it properly, because it's one of those things that you don't want to get started on and then not finish. So I really want to take my time and make sure that I feel confident and comfortable with the makeup of my self-invested personal pension. So I hope that answered any questions that you might have on what a SIPP is or what is in my own personal self-invested personal pension. Anyway, thanks so much for taking the time to watch, and have a really lovely day. Bye bye.